Good morning to everyone. Good afternoon, sorry, to everyone. All the honorables and everyone, good afternoon. Madam Chair, just for the record, I was not one of them who said I will not politicize this crisis or situation, because I will. So for whoever said that they wasn't going to do it, that's on them, or that's their issue. But I'm going to politicize it well. And keep your blessings to yourself. I think you probably need them more than I do. Madam Chair Lady, you know, as I was listening to everything, I sat here and I say, how am I going to start? Or where to tackle it or take it from? And Madam Chair, I would sit here and the former Prime Minister would walk in and I would say, you know, in some way or somehow, try to feel for the individual, because all the answers that she would give back to us was coming from GEBE. But Madam Chair, the vigor that those answers would come would tell me, no, don't feel for her. No, don't do it. Because you would swear that they're her answers. But I'm sitting here, Madam Chair, and it's like deja vu. Because now we have the Honorable Prime Minister, that I am part of the coalition, come in and giving answers, and they're all from GEBE, and the Prime Minister is saying them with the same vigor. So I want to ask my first question to the Honorable Prime Minister. Do you believe it? Do you believe the answers that you received from GEBE? Madam Chair, when I look at the presentation, we are talking almost the end of July for a solution, you know. Madam Chair, I am asking the question again. So, for all the companies, all that was said, everything that was mentioned in the presentation, where's the assessment for it? Who made the assessment for it? Because the Honorable Prime Minister said, Energy Nautics or whoever reviewed this and refused that. I know that came from GEBE. He's saying it. I want to ask the Honorable Prime Minister through you, Madam Chair, did you see any proposal whatsoever from GEBE to Energy Nautics to review all of this information? Have you seen anything? Have they presented anything to you in black and white? That, you know what, we called up or we informed or we asked or Energy Nautics to review all of this. I want to ask through you, Madam Speaker, has the Prime Minister seen anything of such? Or is it that he's just going based on what was told to him from GEBE? I've said it in the last discussion when we were here, Madam Chair, that I don't believe nothing that comes from NVGEBE. And I still, up to this present day, don't believe it. I've also said to the Honorable Prime Minister, remove the board fast, quick. And also, the temporary manager, remove them quick. I've also said that. Madam Chair, maybe others don't want to politicize it, but I will. We are in an election period, a snap election. This is going to be dragged out, wear down, run down all the way to election. Opposition is going to take it, put it on a chain, hang it around our necks, and blame us for it. Do you know why, Madam Chair? Because we are the ones responsible for a solution and getting it done now. So all the this midterm, this and quick that, and all those sort of things, what's the solution? What's the solution? That proposal? That proposal is a solution, Madam Chair. So we have a solution, which is the now solution or the near solution that comes up to 1.9 million something. Then we have a midterm solution, that comes up to 7 million something. That's almost 9 million. And then we have the permanent solution of the generators. That's 42 million, Madam Chair Lady. So we are looking over 50 million. 50 million, Madam Chair. But something got to be wrong. Or I am the one mistaken, because this government is speaking as if they have a 4-year term. I stand to be corrected. So, Madam Chair, through you, I would like to ask the Honorable Prime Minister, is it so that the whole Council of Ministers is in agreement and they approve this solution from GEBE? I want to know, Madam Chair Lady, I want to know if the Minister of Finance is in agreement with it. I want to know if the Minister of Justice and also the hardest working Minister of ECYS is in agreement with it. I want to know if the Minister of TIAT is in agreement with it. I want to know if the Minister of VSA is in agreement with it. I want to know if the Minister of VROMI, all the ministers, is in agreement. Do you have their blessings and agreement based on this solution from GEBE? I want to know, Madam Chair, if the Prime Minister, the Honorable Prime Minister, have the blessing from the whole Council of Ministers on this temporary solution. I want to know, Madam Chair Lady. Madam Chair, as I listen to the presentation, I've lost all confidence in GEBE. All. And Madam Chair, let me explain why. Let me explain why, Madam Chair. And I can mention thousands of reasons why. But Madam Chair, the financial statements, the previous Parliament, Madam Chair, under the last government, when asked Parliament in a meeting with GEBE to provide the current status of the financial statements, especially since 2019, was completed under Ms. Daniel and Timmer. Since then, a year plus, Madam Chair, has passed. Madam Chair, I was told that GEBE, they are now working, and in fact, the financial statements for 2020 was already in draft, and 2021, Madam Chair, has yet to be closed off. I want to know, Madam Chair Lady, through you to the Honorable Prime Minister, if that is true. What is interesting, Madam Chair, is that our current COM requested our financial statements for the year 2020 that supposedly was in draft. 2021, 2022, and 2023. And not being surprised, Madam Chair, GEBE presented in-house figures and not audited financial figures. Furthermore, Madam Chair, because of the billing issue and collections, the year 2022 and 2023 has yet to be closed off. Madam Chair Lady, through you, I would like to ask the Honorable Prime Minister, do you know that? Good. Then if that is the case, Madam Chair, because the Prime Minister just nodded his head and said, yes, if that is the case, Madam Chair, then what financial statements has GEBE presented to the government? What year? Which one, Madam Chair? Because if they are yet to be closed off, how can you present them? How can you present them, Madam Chair? So what was presented to the government, Madam Chair Lady? So basically, Madam Chair, it's safe to say that no financial statement for the year 2020, 2021, 2022, and now 2023 has been audited, has been done. Madam Chair Lady. Madam Chair, I want to go a bit even further, and I'll tell you why also. Madam Chair, GEBE financial situation in Parliament under the last government, Madam Chair, NVGEB informed government that their cash flow was positive. Those were their words. I can go back, Madam Chair, and I can pull that up. GEBE said to the people of St. Maarten, to the government, and also to the members of Parliament that their cash flow was positive. In fact, Madam Chair, they managed to create a reserve. Up to present, or should I say, I have yet to be made aware of how much is that reserve and where it is. Madam Chair, because currently GEBE cash flow is approximately 12 to 13 million, Madam Chair. And please correct me if I'm wrong. In fact, Madam Chair, let me break it down. Currently in Republic Bank, Madam Chair, in GEBE dollar account, NVGEB has $1 million and change. Not forgetting the $6 million in term deposit. Madam Chair, that's a fact. In Gilda's account at Republic Bank, Madam Chair, it's below $1 million guilders. In fact, GEBE has approximately 900,000 guilders. At WIB, Madam Chair, GEBE in guilders account currently has 1 million guilders. And in the dollar, as of yesterday, they have $200,000. Madam Chair, I challenge GEBE to say that this is not true. Madam Chair lady. Madam Chair, RBC, less than 1 million in both dollar and guilder account. First Caribbean Bank, GEBE has a below $1 million in their account. Bank of the Caribbean, GEBE has below $1 million as well. So, Madam Chair, it's fair to say GEBE, the sole monopoly electricity company, only has approximately 12 million in their account. And we are officially in a hurricane season. So again, I am asking, through you, Madam Chair, through you, Madam Speaker, to our Honorable Prime Minister, where's the reserve? Where's the reserve, Madam Chair lady? Is it really a reserve, Madam Chair? Or is it just to mislead the people? Where is the reserve? Madam Chair, listening to the PowerPoint agreement, which listed the down payment GEBE has to pay, including the monthly payment. However, I would like to ask, can GEBE carry it? Especially since the crisis team is still on payroll. The PR marketing contract, still there, at the amount of $6,000. And I know my colleague MP Maarten would know who that person is. Madam Chair lady. Amongst others, all the consultants that are also on payroll. Madam Chair. You see, Madam Chair, it's easy for GEBE to say something because they know that the Honorable Prime Minister don't know. And he's accepting it as it is. And I am saying to the Honorable Prime Minister, through you, Madam Chair, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. Don't believe them. And the latest GEBE, Madam Chair, that was hit with another heavy blow is that the former temporary manager, Dr. Shireen Daniel, won her case, 10 out of 11 case, in which the highest court in Curacao, consisting of 3 judges, reinstated her immediately throughout the whole entire case, including $65,000 report GEBE spent on the company DCCR with the intention to discredit the internal auditor. In addition to that, Madam Chair, the appeals court increased Daniel's daily penalty from 200 guilders a day to $1,000 a day. Madam Chair, I would like to ask, Madam Chair, through you, can GEBE carry paying Daniels $30,000, $30,000 a month next to her salary and benefits, Madam Chair Lady. But yet, the board and the temporary manager is still there. It's still there. Madam Chair, you can't make this up now. I know my colleague minister going to scoff at this a little bit, but I got to throw it out. But no hard feelings to the Honorable Minister Grisha. No hard feelings whatsoever. But Madam Chair, we run up by the harbor, we point at a crane, we see the crane need maintenance, we got on hard hat, you know, we got on the bright colors to show. The one company that seems to be stabilized or working or doing a little well, but we pointing out and we saying what's wrong with it. But Madam Chair, the two worst companies in this country, the airport and GEBE, the managers and them still there. They're still there. They're still there. You can't make it up, Madam Chair. You can't make it up. Madam Chair, let me explain to the people of St. Maarten what is really wrong and how it works. Because again, these are the questions the people of St. Maarten want to know. Madam Chair, how the crankshaft just get mashed up just so? Just so. Madam Chair, when we were small, all of us had these little logo or Lego blocks. We used to build all certain things. GEBE is not a Lego block, Madam Chair. Not a little house that was built just yesterday. So the question is asked is this: would this have happened if Lambert was there? Would this have happened if the deceased gentleman was here? Would this have happened if Maduro was there? Would this have happened if Giovanni was there? Absolutely not. It wouldn't have happened. Madam Chair, the crankshaft, the engine gives off a signal which is called oil mist. Madam Chair, this is when you do your work. This is when you do your work so you could come and you could present to the people of St. Maarten what is happening and what is going on. Not just listen to what GEBE tell you. Madam Chair, the engine gives off a signal which is called the oil mist detector. As a result, Madam Chair, the engine will automatically stop itself. It's basically a protection that releases the engine off the grid, Madam Chair. Now, according to GEBE procedure, it has to leave the engine to cool off and execute an inspection of the crankshaft. Madam Chair, if nothing is found, then normally the engine is reset and restarted. However, please correct me if I'm wrong through you, Madam Chair. If I am wrong, is it true that GEBE did not execute a thorough inspection of all the bearings? And Madam Chair, through you, I would like to caution the Prime Minister in the answer he's going to give to this question. So by cautioning the Prime Minister through you, Madam Chair, I would say to the Honorable Prime Minister, caution the board and GEBE too as well in the answer that they're going to give you, because I have the answer. So tell them to come good, come correct with the answer that they're going to give you in relation to this. So I repeat, if I am wrong, is it true that GEBE did not execute a thorough inspection of all of the bearings, Madam Chair Lady? Furthermore, Madam Chair, is it true that the real reason the crankshaft was damaged extremely because of the oil mist detection procedure was ignored? You see, I've given away the answer. Was ignored. The crankshaft was extremely damaged. Please tell the truth. Was this simply negligence, which now will cause GEBE an arm and a leg, basically considering the crankshaft on its own is approximately $1.5 million without labor? Madam Chair, the PM should have had the internal audit advice of SOB not to purchase the engine. I would like to know, Madam Chair, if he have documentations of such. I would like to know. Madam Chair, it was said that the internal audit advised SORB not to purchase the engine. Through you, Madam Speaker, I'm asking the Honorable Prime Minister, do you have documentations to prove that was said by the internal audit to SORB? I would like to know, Madam Chair, because you can't just come and say something and you can't prove it. Madam Chair, I'm watching the time, and I'm going to be generous and stop early, but I got to get into this grid market thing, Madam Chair. And when they say don't politicize, no?
No, MP, no, I'm not telling you don't get into it. I'm asking if because we're in a CC.
Because of time?
Yeah, no, we're in a CC, so you could get back to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Madam Chair, I'm done on a roll.
Okay,
I can't
okay,
stop now.
If you could just take the time for us into consideration.
Yeah, I'm going to take the time, and this is going to be my last, but I can't stop now. Madam Chair, you see when the former government walk in and speak so highly of grid market and speak so this and grid market is this, and Madam Chair, and these are the things the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers should know about. Madam Chair, I want to read this letter. Ministry of General Affairs, attention, Prime Minister Silveria Jacobs, Government Administration Building, Phillipsburg, your reference, dated March the 30th, 2022, subject, information request, grid market. It means, Madam Chair, that the Council of Ministers through the Prime Minister requested information from GEBE for grid market. And this is what was said, Madam Chair. And Prime Minister, get your hand on the document. It's booked in to Div. Madam Chair, it said, dear Prime Minister Jacobs, in 2021, NVGEBE received a request for information in respect of the production and distribution of electricity on St. Maarten from Grid Market, LLC Grid Market. If I understood correctly or understand correctly, Grid Market is engaged to facilitate and accelerate the transition to a clean energy economy, the Clean Energy Initiative, through its platform, in collaboration with the Island Resilient Partnership. In response to this information request, I would like to inform you as follows. It goes on to say, are you aware GEBE has an exclusive concession for the production and distribution of electricity on St. Maarten? Pursuant to that concession, any investment in the production and distribution network requires a public tender. Madam Chair, public tender. Madam Chair, through you, please ask our Prime Minister to get his hand on this document. It goes on to say, Madam Chair, in addition, the concession stipulates that GEBE may not share any confidential data and or information with third parties. As concessionaire, GEBE is legally bound by the provisions of the concession and cannot deviate from it. It goes on to say, Madam Chair, correctly, GEBE is not in process of, GEBE is not in the process of organizing a tender for the production of electricity. If and when GEBE organizes such a tender, it will reach out to qualified potential contractors and or service providers and will disclose relevant information related to that tender procedure. Given Grid Market's engagement, GEBE is happy to consider to include Grid Market in the list of applicants for such a tender. When organized, through you, Madam Chair, I would like to ask the Honorable Prime Minister, do you know of any tender that was done or organized by GEBE for Grid Market to have gotten to have gotten an exclusive concession from the previous government? I want to know, Madam Chair. It goes on to say, Madam Chair, moreover, GEBE has not yet received an official introduction or request from the government of St. Maarten regarding a potential cooperation between GEBE and Grid Market for a specific aspect of the electricity production which is covered by the concession. Madam Chair, all correspondence GEBE has received has been from the department head of Interior and Kingdom Relations and Grid Market. It goes on to say, Madam Chair, in August last, to better understand the objective, GEBE requested to receive the Memorandum of Understanding as entered into by the government of St. Maarten, the Island Resilient Partnership and Grid Market. While we understand and appreciate your particular interest in set the Clean Energy Initiative in motion, given the applicable legal framework and the lack of formal engagement between GEBE and Grid Market, GEBE is currently not in a position to provide any confidential information to Grid Market. But they have an MOU, Madam Chair. So that means they received confidential information. It goes on to say, the rules as laid down in the concession do not allow it. So something went wrong somewhere. However, a sign of support for Clean Energy Initiative, GEBE is willing to provide Grid Market with publicly available information to help you get to a Clean Energy Initiative on track within the boundaries of the concession. Trusting we have informed you sufficiently, please do not hesitate to reach out in case of any further questions or comment. We are, of course, happy to discuss. Sincerely, Merrill Timmer, Temporary Manager, signed on the 30th of the 3rd, 2022. So, Madam Chair Lady, subsequently after that, he didn't last too long and somebody else was appointed, Troy. How did they get confidential information to come up, Madam Chair, with an MOU to Grid Market for them to get this exclusive agreement? Somebody gave it to them. When GEBE is sprouting their chest and walking in here and say, we can't give confidential information. We can't give this because this is confidential. We can't do that because of an NDA. And we can't, and we can't, and we can't. But Madam Chair, here is laid out. But yet, Grid Market have an exclusive agreement, MOU. This ain't Samoa. We're not in the Pacific. All who went Samoa and who went here and, you know, small states, and we don't care about that. The people of Samoa don't want to know we're going to get electricity. And when it's going to be sustainable, and when it's going to be long-term, that nothing's going to cut off. Madam Chair, I would like to state my position. Christopher Emmanuel, the leader of the Now Party, is distancing himself officially from the government's approach dealing with GEBE and this crisis. I want nothing to do with their approach and their solution. This is not sustainable. This is going to cost this government. And I, Madam Chair Lady, want to have nothing to do with it. I am distancing myself from the government's approach dealing with this crisis of GEBE and our energy sufficiency. Because, Madam Chair, I don't believe them. Madam Chair, more is going to come out. And it's going to reach to a point where I don't want to say, I told you so. I thank you very much, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Christophe Emmanuel. Members of Parliament, Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, as I had indicated before we got to this point, I will now adjourn this meeting until 2:30 p.m. Meeting adjourned.